Welcome to my channel. This is Mon, and in today's video we're going to take a look at how to build the Dusty Pistol, which is an excellent shrapnel killing deviant gun, so let's get right into it. Looking at the weapon's features, it has a 55% chance to trigger shrapnel when hitting a weak spot, which means that if you're not hitting weak spots with this gun, you lose a ton of damage. And the special thing about this gun is that shrapnel can now hit weak spots even if your normal bullets hit weak spots. And the shrapnel also benefits from a 15% weak spot bonus by default. Now, as you might or might not know, shrapnel usually cannot hit the same spot your normal bullets hit, and amongst other things, it decays with distance and all the rest. Now, for the calibration, you should preferably use precise shot style. Then, if you don't have that, use rapid shot style. So just like with the Wildfire or the Memento, precise shot style is a bit better. And for this gun, another benefit is that it also gives 40% range from precision style, which will reduce your damage fall off, which is pretty important since this is a shrapnel gun. The shrapnel has damage fall off and the normal bullet has damage fall off. And rapid shot style does not have that range bonus. Then for the calibration substats, go with double weak spots since we're doing the weak spot build, as this gun's shrapnel can also hit weak spots even if your normal bullets hit weak spots. For your accessories, you should always use the extended pistol mag. Then for tactics, go with the integrated laser sight for the most amount of accuracy, or the small infrared indicator for the most amount of stability. Then for the optic, I'm running the mini reflex sight, but you can always run the light reflex sight for faster aiming speed and more mobility. For the muzzle, it's really your choice. Want more range? Go with camouflage suppressor. Want more accuracy? Go with the small compensator. And want more stability? Then go with the tactical flash hider. Let's move on to your key gear. The two key gear of choice will be between beret and gas tight helmet. Cage won't be preferred since it's essentially a worse beret here, as spoiler alert, we are not going to use explosive shrapnel as there's another shrapnel mod catered to this gun. But essentially the advantage of Cage over beret is that it makes it so that the requirement for explosive shrapnel is lessened by half thanks to this right here, shrapnel trigger count +1. However, we're not going to use that mask mod, and because beret is shrapnel hit part, it makes it so that Shatter Them All gives you 30% shrapnel damage bonus instead of 15% if you were running Cage. Then for gas tight, it reduces your shrapnel trigger count to only 1, but makes it do 2.2 times more damage. And do note that the gas tight shrapnel bonus damage right here of 120% is a separate multiplier from your mod's shrapnel damage bonus. So knowing all that, let's move on to the Substat Priority to determine, well, which helmet is better for you. But before I do that, I just want to quickly mention that if you enjoyed this video or have been enjoying my past videos, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video. It helps me a lot. But anyway, let's move on. So for your weapon and mask, you can get shrapnel suffix mods. And essentially, gas tight scales harder the more shrapnel damage percent you get. And I will put a Word doc with the math I did, but essentially, if you breach 50% shrapnel damage bonus, gas tight becomes better than beret. This means that if you're in a server that doesn't benefit shrapnel, and what I mean by that is in your Cradle, in servers that don't benefit shrapnel, you're not going to have tracking bullet. So you'll lose out on 25% shrapnel damage percent. And it's going to be pretty hard to go over 50%, right? Since you'll only have this Cradle, which gives you 25% shrapnel damage bonus. So this gets you 52% shrapnel damage bonus, which is already, well, the best case scenario, since you'll need to get the 12% shrapnel damage bonus from your shrapnel suffixes, and that's pretty hard to get. Hence, pretty much, if you're not going to breach 50%, beret will be better than gas tight. If you go over 50% shrapnel damage bonus, gas tight will be better than beret. But in both cases, ideally, you're running a shrapnel suffix mod, since, well, shrapnel damage percent is a separate multiplier, well, from everything else, and you'll have, well, much less shrapnel damage bonus than weapon damage bonus or weak spot damage bonus. Then for the rest of the substats, look for shrapnel weak spot damage percent and 2 damage bonuses versus X type of enemy. Then for everything else, get yourself a precision suffix with weapon damage percent as linked substats and again 2 damage bonuses versus X type of enemy. Then moving on to gear sets, run 4-piece Renegade and 1-piece Bast C. The 4-piece Renegade will give you reload speed, weak spot damage, stacking weak spot damage, and increased mag capacity at its 4-piece. And the Bastille will give you a conditional 10% weapon damage bonus as long as your HP is above 70%. If you don't like the 1-piece Bastille, you can always opt for 3-piece Renegade to keep all that damage bonus from Renegade. However, you're going to run a 2-piece Scout for the, non-conditional 8% weapon damage bonus. If you don't have all that legendary gear, Agent is essentially a pseudo-Renegade, and this means that you can run 4-piece Agent with 1-piece Bastille, or 3-piece Agent with a 2-piece Scout. Moving on to your Cradle buffs, you're going to want to run Handgun Enhancement for the pistol damage, Master Tactician and Deviation Master for the damage against Elite and Great Ones, Tactical Combo for the weapon damage, Deadly Combo for the shrapnel damage by default. Then if you're in a server that benefits shrapnel, run Tracking Bullet for the shrap damage bonus. If you are in a hard server, run the Cradle Lone Walker, which is supposed to be in between these two, which buffs your damage if you fight alone. And one of the other hard server buffs is something like the Pistol Anti-Regen. Anyway, it's something for pistols, and that's to counter one of the anti-regens or anti-void. And they're going to be in this spot. Then if you're not going to run those cradles or whatever, or if your cradle slots still aren't filled, go with Steady Hand for the weak spot damage bonus if you're using either a support Fortress Warfare weapon or Bullseye weapon, and Bounty Hunter if you use a Bullseye weapon. So this is, for instance, my setup for Prism vs Clash. Now moving on to secondary and melee options, go with either Bingo or Wildfire as Bullseye options. Bingo can give up to 45% weak spot damage bonus and a 15% attack increase, which are both great for this gun. Wildfire does give 25% weapon damage bonus, but has the downside of not giving it if there are multiple enemies. And you can even run the MG4 as a pseudo-supportive or sub-DPS weapon with either Shooting Blitz or Shootout. With Shootout, you'll gain a 5% attack and a 5% fire rate buff, and with Shootout, you won't benefit much from the Fast Gunner effect since it's not going to last long, but you can get a weapon damage increase of up to 30%. Then for your melee weapon, run the Long Axe. It's going to give you Fortress Warfare from a heavy attack, which is 20% weapon damage bonus and super armor, but that's not the important part. And if you're still unaware, the Long Axe animation can be animation cancelled, and its buff also follows you until it spawns. Now let's start talking about the mods. So for the gun, run Shatter Them All as your burst option, as it's going to give you 30% shrapnel damage bonus if you run Beret. Then for sustained damage, you should go with Shrapnel Souvenir, since with that mod you're pretty much going to reload much less. Now if you are running Gas Tight, you straight up just wouldn't want to run Shrapnel Souvenir, because Gas Tight only triggers shrapnel once, per proc, so it's not going to be as consistent with Shrapnel Souvenir's ammo refill, since it's bound to only trigger on a non-weak spot, whereas Beret gives you 2 chances of shrapnel hitting a weak spot per shrapnel proc. Then moving on to Helmet, your 2 choices are going to be Momentum Up and Precise Strike. And pretty much if you have a 100% weak spot hit ratio or a really high one, Precise Strike will be better. However, if you don't have that, then Momentum Up should be the choice to pick. Then for your mask, like I said in the gear section, we are not going to run Explosive Shrapnel, we are going to run Shrapnel Carnage. It's literally made for this gun. Now, it does say shrapnel hit rate 100%, but it's not actually 100% shrapnel weak spot hit ratio. It just increases the chance of shrapnel hitting a weak spot multiplicatively of its original base chance. And then this mod also gives shrapnel weak spot damage 25%. Moving on to your gloves, your choice is between Munitions Amplifier or Weak Spot Damage Boost. Usually, you should prefer Munitions Amplifier due to just having way more weak spot damage than weapon damage in your total stat sheet. But you know, substats are very important, and with the buffs, that can change. So just know that usually, you know, like for instance, the damage versus X type of enemy can shift the balance easily to weak spot damage boost. Then for your boots, go with either Covered Advance or Ruthless Reaper. Covered Advance is best for doing the most amount of damage, as it either gives more buffs or is less conditional than your other options. Then Ruthless Reaper can be used as a refill option when you're shooting against normal enemies so that you can avoid reloading. Moving on to top, it's going to be the same logic for gloves really. It's going to be between munitions amplifier or weak spot damage boost. Then lastly, for your pants, the only option here would be bullet siphon. Unstoppable isn't good because it forces you to hit weak spots at a long range with a pistol that doesn't have that much range with its damage fall off. Then 3 strikes only benefits the first 3 bullets for this pistol with a mag of like 21 bullets, which pretty much means a bullet siphon is your best choice. Now for your food buffs, you would want to go with mixed fried hot dog as long as you're shooting against marked enemies. If you are not, then use crumbly bread if you have less weapon damage than weak spot damage bonus, and use assorted canned fruits if you have less weak spot damage bonus than weapon damage bonus. Besides that, don't forget that the pan-fried fish buffs are stackable with your main buffs, so make sure to eat the sea bass one to give you increased fire rate, and the pompano at the same time to give you increased weak spot damage bonus. Then for drinks, go with iced tea for more movement speed, or Stardust Raspberry Shaved Ice for longer debuff duration, which is the bullseye effect. If you enjoyed this guide, like and subscribe to support me as I hugely appreciate it. Leave a comment for the algorithm or if you got a question, and I'll see you in my next guide.